Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. Phil Giraldi joins us now. Phil, it's always a pleasure. How did the donor class, basically very wealthy American Jews, acquire such a stranglehold on the presidency, the Congress, the banks, media, and academia?
Well, I think there are two arguments to be made. I mean, the first one, I think, is that it's a question of pure money, where they have a lot of it. And after the Supreme Court basically opened up the door to using money for political donations and without limit, they immediately jumped on that wagon and obtained a lot of friends in Congress. And as we've seen now with our current president, he donation of $100 million from that Miriam Adelson. This is not that unusual now, and this is how these people are bought. So that I think is part of it. The other part of it is the potential damage side. I think I can give you a whole list of congressmen who ceased being congressmen because the Israel lobby was powerful enough not only to come up with money, but also to come up with candidates, to come up with media support, and to come up with a whole lot of other things. That means that congressmen who are in any way perceived as being soft on Israel don't last long. In the last election, for example, there were two Democratic congressmen who were perceived as being soft in that area. And the lobby came up with $17 million in funding to get rid of both of them. And this was an unprecedented sum at that time. And they were successful. So this is how the system works.
So they went after two Democratic members of Congress, even though they already control about 400 of the 435 members of the House and the overwhelming majority of the Senate. Isn't that so?
Yeah, that's correct. And but for them, even one congressman who's speaking up against what Israel is doing and what it's doing to our country is one too many. There have been reports that Tom Massey is next on the list, and that they are willing to go as far as it takes in money to get rid of them. So this is the way their mind works. They don't want any negative perceptions about Israel coming out of the Congress, coming out of the White House, coming out of the media, and this is what we've been seeing.
I'm going to play a clip for you of our friend Medea Benjamin of Code Pink, who makes it a habit of confronting public officials about their support of genocide. She had a famous confrontation with Itamar Ben-Gvir earlier this week, but this is a confrontation with a female conservative Democrat, a Republican named Nancy Mace from South Carolina. I just didn't think that the donor class reached into South Carolina, but you watch and hear the interaction between the two. What Nancy Mace says, I suggest to you, is ludicrous, absurd, and highly, highly biased. If the language had come the other way around on a college campus, Trump would be all over them for not stopping anti-Semitism. But you listen to this and tell me what you think of it.
Hello, Congresswoman. What do you have to say today about the starvation of children in Gaza?
You're a self-hating Jew, right? Is that what you are?
I was asking.
Hate Jews?
I am a Jew, so
yeah,
I'm certainly
you hate
not.
Jews. You love Hamas.
Well, I asked you what you think about the starvation.
You guys are
of
domestic
children.
terrorists. You support domestic terrorism.
That's also silly, but on a more serious note, Do you have concern about the starvation in Gaza? I know you love Jews. We all love Jews. What about the children who are starving because Israel has not let in food for the last 2 months?
What about all the Jews that have been murdered by Hamas and civilians in Gaza? You guys are disgusting.
You're okay with the collective punishment of 2 million people?
I support the Jews all around the world, even you. Your self-loathing Jewishness.
Your self-loathing Jewishness. I really never heard that before, but according to Blumenthal, that is a one-liner that people use for Jews who are not Zionists.
Yeah, and there are quite a lot of them. There have been
Most of them.
Yeah, there are major demonstrations that have been held by Jews for peace, and they've been very effective. I like Medea a lot. I've met her. I know her. She's very effective, and we're seeing where the brain shuts down in people like Congresswoman Mace, where they are seeing what's at the bottom line at the end of the day for them and the buddies that they identify with. And they don't care about whether, I mean, Ben Gvir recently made a comment to the effect of that he didn't mind having, or he did mind having all these Palestinians in prison, but he would much prefer just putting a bullet to the back of their head and getting rid of them. So this is the thinking going on, and I'm sure Mace would approve of that. Absolutely. Just like starving 100,000 people doesn't bother her, and probably either killing or forcing to leave their country of 2 million more Palestinians will be just fine with her. And quite frankly, I mean, these people are sickening. They really don't belong in any deliberative body in any sane country. But this is a kind of a representation of the fact that we've gone completely around the bend in the United States particularly when it comes to control of Israel by many of our government and other processes in the state.
I thought she was disgusting. I don't know the woman personally. I'm talking about Congresswoman Mace. I too know Medea and have met her. She's one of the most courageous people on the planet. Chris, do we have her tangling with Itamar Ben-Gvir on Capitol Hill? Yeah, all right, here she is again.
You kill baby! You kill baby! You kill baby! You kill baby!
You are a racist. No, you are a war criminal. You are a war criminal. You are a war criminal who spews hatred. You are to be in The Hague. You are a racist war criminal, and you're hurting my religion. My religion as a Jew, you are creating the anti-Semitism. I never supported 9/11. Baby killer, extremist, racist, genocide. Get out of our house. We don't want you here.
Where does he come off with accusing her of supporting the events of 9/11? I never heard that allegation before.
Yeah, no, that's you say anything you want just because it's painful. She was very good and she's very effective, and I like very much what she was saying to him. I mean, this guy is a war criminal. He's a baby killer. He's a monster. He almost goes beyond monster. He goes beyond Benjamin Netanyahu, which one would not have thought was possible.
Is he the one of the ones that have pulled Netanyahu farther to the right than Netanyahu's own inclinations are?
Well, that's been argued. He and Smotrich, which is the finance minister, is another one. They both represent a specific splinter extremist parties, and they are what give Netanyahu his majority in the Knesset, and basically save him from being tried or to finish this longest running trial in court to nail him for corruption and remove him. So there's a lot of politics that plays out in that. He's more extreme than Netanyahu, as is Smotrich. And they play their card, which is to have these fringe parties, which give them the majority. And Netanyahu knows that. And he's got to listen to what they say. And he does.
You wrote a piece recently in which, among other revelations, you revealed, this number startled me, Phil, that there are 23,000 Americans who have joined the IDF and are fighting for the IDF. I mean, is there some prohibition on Americans wearing the uniform of a foreign country and fighting in a foreign war for that other country?
There absolutely is. My understanding is that if you join the military of a foreign country that's not a NATO member, you are possibly going to be subjected to losing your American citizenship. And of course, there are two ways to look at this. And we're saying 23,000 Americans, but this could be, a large part of this number could be Israelis who are dual nationals with U.S. citizenship, which they acquired after they were born as Israelis and brought up that way. So the number is a little bit deceptive. I would say. The fact is, we're talking about a lot of people who should, by law, I believe, be losing their U.S. citizenship.
This must include these two ladies, Mirav Seren and Sigal Pearl Mandelker. Tell us about Mirav Seren. Isn't she a dual American-Israeli, now in charge of American-Israeli-Iran relations? And doesn't she sit on the National Security Council?
Yeah, you got all that right. This woman is an Israeli. She worked for the Ministry of Defense in Israel. She also worked for the Israeli Embassy in New York. Her husband is currently working at the U.S. Israeli Embassy in New York. She was a member of the the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, which is headed by Mark Dubowitz, a Canadian Jew, and is basically exists to go to war with Iran. And here, this woman is in the driver's seat and has the keys for making the case to go to war with Iran. I mean, that's her job. Her job is to do an assessment of Israel, Iran, and of course, the United States as the heavy lifter coming in to do the job.
Well, why would Mike Waltz hire somebody like this? What? She's obviously extremely wedded to the Israeli cause, profoundly biased. She's not going to give him clear-headed intelligence, is she?
No, of course not. But that's not what is expected. What is expected? She's an intelligent woman, has international experience, and she will be able to twist arguments in various ways to come out with the right solution. And of course, we would assume the right solution is to do what Israel wants vis-a-vis Iran, although it appears that Trump may be getting a little bit cold feet in that direction, although I wouldn't bank on that. I think Trump will wind up doing what the Israelis want, just as his predecessor did.
One thing that Ben-Gvir did say that I found interesting is that his American contacts, who also have contacts with the White House, I don't know who he's talking about specifically, are telling him that Trump is getting sick and tired of Netanyahu.
Yeah, I think that's a personality thing, however, because we heard the same thing when Obama was interacting with Netanyahu. Exactly the same sort of thing, that he really didn't like him, but so on and so forth. Obviously, Joe Biden had no problem with him. So it's Trump has a massive ego, which under normal circumstances for the president of the United States, I would think, were really in for it. But maybe one good thing about it is that at a certain point, he wants to be the man number one. Today, in fact, I'm sure you're aware, he made a possibly joking line about he should become the next pope. And so this is where this guy comes from in terms of his self-esteem.
But I did not hear that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's his self-esteem. And if Netanyahu gets a little bit too far in front of that, Trump could go the other way.
I wonder if Trump was unhappy that Netanyahu refused to attend Pope Francis's funeral.
That's a good question. Trump, to a certain
would the Italians have arrested, or the Swiss Guard have arrested Netanyahu because of the arrest warrant?
Well, they should have, but that's maybe the reason he didn't go. And so I don't know. There was no press release of any kind out of the Israeli government, as far as I know, when the Pope died, and so that was a bit surprising.
Who is this?
Of course, the Pope, let's face it, has been pushing pretty hard on the Gaza issue, so there might be politics in it too.
Right. Who is this woman, Sigal Pearl Mandelker, about whom you wrote?
She was the mad lady of sanctions during Trump's first administration. She was at an office in the Treasury Department where she became basically the person to lay out sanctions on countries like Iran, primarily, but also at that time, you recall, Venezuela was considered to be an enemy, and there were a number of others. So she was another Israeli. And she got this job, was given this job with primarily the purpose and function of punishing countries like Iran, and that was what she did for the two or so years that she was in office.
Is she there now?
No, she's not there now. This was during the first Trump term.
Why does Trump hire people like this? Because of the donor class that has enriched his campaigns.
Trump hires people like this because he's pretty much owned by the Israel lobby, and he bows to them every chance he gets. And you look at all of his appointments, there's hardly a one that is going to shed any kind of decency or any kind of rationality into the discussions that are going on right now in terms of what will develop in the Middle East with Iran and with countries like Syria. So we shall see. But I have a real bad feeling about where this is all going.
Well, there almost was one until the Zionist lobby caused Trump to change his mind, and that's our friend Colonel Daniel Davis, who was to be the deputy to Tulsi Gabbard, and who would have spoken openly, candidly, truthfully to Trump on issues like Gaza and Ukraine, but the crowd that controls the American government didn't want him there.
Yeah, I don't know him very well, but I hope that is true about him. And certainly it was the Israel lobby that came down after him when his name came up as the possible candidate. He wasn't actually even nominated. They went after him before he was even nominated, which shows you, again, this intensity of they always want 100% of what they're looking at in terms of the people who carry out the policies and so on and so forth. So this was another actual demonstration of that.
Our friend and colleague, Scott Ritter, against the advice of some of us, debated former Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz on whether or not there is genocide in Gaza. Scott was very diplomatic and cordial, and it took the sting and the wind out of Professor Dershowitz's sails, who's very in your face, and he became rather cordial as well. My hat is off to Scott for the patience that he had listening to Professor Dershowitz, but he managed to press Dershowitz on an issue that the Netanyahu people don't want to address, and that is admitting that the Israelis do have a nuclear weapon. So you won't see Scott in this, but you'll see Dershowitz responding. Chris?
Although I support a two-state solution, I have since 1967. I wrote my first article supporting a two-state solution in 1970. I supported it in a debate with Noam Chomsky in the early 1970s. It's an ideal. A one-state solution is impossible because who gets the nuclear weapons if you have a one-state solution? Obviously, the Jewish state of Israel, the nation state of the Jewish people, is not going to give its Arab population access to its weapons system that are the only guarantee of Israel's survival. The only reason Israel survives at all today is because it has overwhelming military strength, more than all the Arab armies combined. That was proved in 1948, and it was proved again on October 7th, a year ago. Israel must maintain its superior military force.
Well, put aside his misreading of the strength of Israel's military. It was quite shocking, I thought. This is one of Netanyahu's best American friends, acknowledging, maybe he just was caught with his pants down, so to speak, acknowledging that the Israeli government illegally, he's a professor of law, he knows the law, has nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting because it's basically not allowed for Israeli government officials to admit that, just as it's not allowed for U.S. government officials to admit that, which is a rather interesting turn on it. Even though every U.S. government official in foreign policy knows exactly well that Israel has 200 to 300 nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them. So this is kind of an interesting thing. And the other interesting aspect, of course, is that the intelligence officer who more or less arranged for the theft of the uranium and the triggers from the United States out of the embassy in Washington was Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was Jonathan Pollard. What did Pollard do?
Well, Pollard was later, and basically he was he has been called the most damaging spy in the history of the United States. And what he did is he stole all the technical material that enabled the United States to conduct its espionage worldwide. So in other words, suddenly Israel had the key to everything that the United States did anywhere in the world, and was able to access this. So this was a huge intelligence break for the Israelis, and he was caught, he was imprisoned, and he was finally paroled, but with the condition that he had to stay in the United States, which Donald Trump reversed. He gave him a pardon and let him go back to Israel, where he is now, and he is worshipped as something like a god. He's a hero in Israel.
Was Netanyahu actually a Mossad agent who helped steal American atomic secrets?
Yeah, I think that's pretty well documented, except I would not necessarily assume that he worked for Mossad. He was working out of the embassy, is my understanding. And as a result, he was in the middle of a lot of the things that were going on, particularly with our friend, the producer in Hollywood, who was most responsible for getting the triggers. He had to work through intermediaries to make all this kind of thing happen. And one of those intermediaries was Benjamin Netanyahu.
Whew. All right. Thank you, Phil. Thanks for all of this. You're so good at documenting all this. Thank you very much for your time and for sharing everything you've unearthed with us today. All the best. Now, by the way, where is Rupert today?
Well, he's with Mom, I think, watching on the television set as we are speaking right now.
All right. All right. Give the dog and give Mom my best as well. We'll see you next week, my friend.
Okay, thank you. See you then.
Okay. Whew. Coming up at 4:00 today, time change. Worth waiting for. Max Blumenthal, Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.